But I don't know. It kind of feels like you're feeding me appetizers. At some point, I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't want to see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the U.S. military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better? Why are my cities disgusting? I don't even want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable and create an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life? Can they like get married young, as I did, and like have 4 kids and, you know, take a couple jobs, work hard and all that stuff? But in the end, it's like, fine. Can they do that? Or is that like so remote a possibility that you need to tell me that Iran is the real threat, take my mind off the fact that you stole all the money and screwed up my country beyond recognition? So I guess what I would say before I have an actual aneurysm is, unless we say to the people in charge, we are going to determine what's important, you need to listen to us, your voters, about what we actually care about. I'll take a lecture for about 10 minutes. I can do that. I went to school. You know, I'm used to sitting there and being like, oh, yeah, okay, the Axis powers, that's so important. Thank you for telling me. I can take a lecture for about 10 minutes, and they're like telling me Iran is the greatest sponsor of terrorism. Okay, that's great. I hate Iran. Got it. But at some point, I want to pipe up and say, yeah, but what are you going to do about Union Station in Washington, D.C., which is filled with passed-out drug addicts with spreading urine stains? Like, it wasn't that way. I was here. How did that happen, and why aren't you fixing it? And by the way, if you don't fix it or even acknowledge it, dude, bad things could happen. Like, wake up. Time is to wake up out of your freaking fantasy world where you think telling the rest of us to shut up is enough. If you keep doing that, you know, this could go in dark directions. So I think it's so important for every person to look around and make your own decisions about what's important. What's important to you? What around you in your life? What do you see in your family, among your friends, in the town that you live in that's going wrong? Those are the biggest problems. Not what some shill on television is telling you your biggest problems are. He can shut up, but he won't. But look around. What's the biggest problem in your life? And if you're burdened by a car loan or some credit card payment you can never actually make, if you can't afford to make the full payment on your credit card 2 months in a row, that's a crisis, okay? That's a crisis. If you're in the hole to DraftKings to a point where you can't pay. No, I'm serious. These are huge problems, and most of them are money related. And if they're not solved, you're not getting married, and you're not having children, and you're not going to have a happy, fulfilling life, period. And they tell you, oh, it's all about values. Yeah, okay, values. You can't afford a house? I don't care what your values are like. You're not having 4 kids in an apartment. So you need to be heard on that. And anyone who tells you, oh, shut up, racist, hoist the middle finger and tell them, keep talking to me that way, pal, and we'll punish you. Anyway, sorry, excuse me. Do we have any hostile questions about Qatar? Yes. Well, that's so nice. Tell your mom I love you or her. Okay, your mom does too. Any questions? Yes, sir. What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Are you joking? Amnesty for farm workers? We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country. The country bears no resemblance to the country I grew up in, and it's not better, it's worse.
Yell at Tucker.
So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task, period. It hasn't worked. The country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified. Those words should burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation? What about that? I mean, look, and let me just say, people say all kinds of things. It doesn't mean it's happening. But I think it's worth being a little paranoid about it. I mean, I think everyone in this room is paranoid. It's important to make sure even the people you love are true to their word. Doesn't mean you hate them. Again, I don't take my kids at their... I love my kids more than anything. I don't automatically believe everything they tell me because I'm not a moron. Because I understand that people don't always say the truth. So, but anyway, yeah, any kind of amnesty is not only a bad idea, it's like outrageous. Anyway, sorry, I've been told to take the mics. I'm sorry, I know you guys have good provocative questions about Qatar, but I've been asked to talk to this guy.
How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm spun up, baby.
First off, I'd like to thank you for coming to this event. I'm 20 years old. I've been watching you for the past 12 years of my whole life. Every single night, I've always listened to you, so thank you for coming. We love to listen to your opinions, listen to you preach basically to everyone. My question is, in your opinion, we have individuals in this country that are full citizens that are also full citizens of other countries. In your opinion, how can somebody pledge allegiance to two countries at the same time, and is that something that we should be allowing?
I mean, I think your question says it all. Obviously, that's absurd. I quote the New Testament, but I also refer to common sense when I say that no man can serve two masters. It's not possible. I only have one wife for that reason. You say to your wife, I'm going to take another wife, but I'm going to love you just as much. Nothing's going to change. My wife's going to look at me like, no, that's one wife. Because you I think that's a huge problem. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. There's a lot of Americans who've served in Ukraine, and they should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for another. It's just an obvious recognition of the truth. But there's a more insidious thing, and I say it's not just Israel. I'm not just trying to give myself cover. I'm being honest. There are a ton of countries that offer citizenship, actually, some of which I love. I have been offered citizenship in a couple different countries that I really like, and I thought about it. And then I thought, no, there's something about being lashed to the mast. Like, everyone can see that America's in trouble, the demographic trends are really bad, and the country's decaying, its cities are falling apart. So you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should flee. And then I'm like, my ancestors are from here. My parents are buried right across from my kitchen. I'm staying here. And the second you make that decision in your head, I don't care what happens to America, I will be here, it totally changes your attitude. You're like, I don't even care, it's my country. And they've been here for so long and fought in all of these wars. My ancestors, and I'm sure yours, would be totally shocked by some of the conversations. Foreign flags in the Congress? Are you joking? Get out. And so, no, once you decide you're all in on your country, it really changes the way you approach everything. And by the way, it should be the baseline requirement. You shouldn't be allowed to serve in government if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're a dual citizen. Are you joking? Of course not. And I would love to know what the justification is. And of course, there isn't one, which is why they're allowed to just write you off as some sort of freak, some internet freak, hater, Nazi, whatever. No, I'm not. Just an American who loves my country, and I think it's fair to demand that the people running my country love it every bit as much as I do.
All righty, Tucker. Thank you for being here today. My question is mainly focused on national security. I have a question first, and then a proposal. I'll see how you go about that.
Now you're freaking me out. You got a Rumble hat on. I love you already. All right. I'm going to stop and have an Alp, which is America's premier nicotine powder.
Go for it. All righty. So I was born in Cuba. I came at the age of 2. So I can attest to the fact that the socialist experiment doesn't work at all.
Yep.
And that America is the best country in the world.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
You know, I'm a U.S. citizen, and I'm very proud of that, and that's why I stand for my country every day. But I have a question specifically about national security.
All right, hit me with it, baby. No preamble. Just go right to it. You can't scare me.
So, for example, I would say that the head of the snake for a lot of the spying that goes on in the United States is Cuba. For example, we've found evidence that Venezuela, Nicaragua, like all the issues with immigration are because of the socialism going on in Latin America.
Yes.
And Cuba's an outpost for human trafficking, drug trafficking. We have Chinese spy bases on the island. We had Russian missile testing under Biden. And then on top of that, Cuba doesn't even recognize Gitmo as American territory. So my question for you is, what should the United States stance be on Cuba and the liberation thereof? And my proposal is, if you're willing to do some sort of documentary on Cuba, and if I could help you out on that.
Well, I always appreciate the offer of assistance. I would say we've had a Cuba... And we've had an embargo for much of that time, and you just said yourself it hasn't worked. It hasn't liberated Cuba. The same regime is in charge, and it is still, working to undermine the interests of the United States. So what we're doing isn't working. I think that's a good place to start. So I know from living in D.C. that whenever someone tells you, like, it's not working, we need to double down on it, they're lying. So I think we need to reassess, are sanctions really the answer? And if so, tell me how that's worked. Second, I would say, I'm sure everything you say is true. I don't think that most Americans, and I know the U.S. government doesn't, spend a lot of time thinking about our own hemisphere because we're so focused on places like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Gaza, Israel, all great places. I'm not, attacking anybody, but I'm just saying those are thousands of miles in an ocean away, whereas Latin America is right there, and what happens there is a direct effect here in our migration patterns and in our drug importation. So, maybe we should focus on our own hemisphere. I think you made a powerful case for that, and I don't understand why the U.S. military is stationed in Japan, Korea. I mean, I know that you get a long answer, how we're spending $1 trillion to secure places that pose no imminent threat to us while ignoring our own continent, ignoring Mexico, which is the most hostile country in the world, the United States. Obviously, there's migrants coming through Mexico. How are they our ally? Canada, how are they our ally? Maybe we should spend some time reorienting here. One more question.
Hey, Tucker. I'm a big fan. I would love to work for you. I did give my resume to Steve Bannon. It would be hilarious if you two fought over me. I'm just saying. That would be great.
It'd be like a real bitchy cat fight.
It'd be a hell of a story, yeah. My family has fought for this country. I voted MAGA 3 times. My generation, just like you said, is convinced it can't trust the institutions and the administration, even this administration after last Monday. America first means America first, not foreign governments, not rich pedophiles. I have a lot more about the history, but I'm going to get through it out of respect for everybody. Basically, my questions are this. How does anybody possibly expect us to have any trust in our government, pay taxes, accept draft orders if these elites are not held accountable, right? And how am I anti-Semitic? My great-grandfather killed Nazis, and I brag about it. My mother's doctor was a Holocaust survivor, and everyone calls Trump a Nazi. My family in Chicago and my family in Ireland, which are both liberal hellholes, right? And it's pretty convenient that if he did criticize Israel, everyone could just say, look, I told you so, but that's not the point. Anyways, and finally, and how am I anti-Semitic when all my sources are Jewish, Israeli publications, and Holocaust survivors?
I think that's an entirely fair question. It's totally outrageous. You got 65 million people here illegally, according to the administration, and the only ones who are deported are ones who criticize a foreign country. I don't understand it. It's driving people insane, actually, and it's making people angry in a bad way. And I go on, X, and I see stuff. It's like, I don't even want that in my head. I don't want that. I don't want to marinate in that. I'm a happy person. I have a great life. I love this country. I love my dogs. I love my children. I love my wife. And you go online, and people are so mad. I mean, I've never seen anything like the rage online. And I get it. I get it. That's the worst part. I get it. This is people. Of justice, which is running around, it's got task forces attacking people. It's like, stop. What matters in this country is not what religion, ethnicity, race you are. It's whether or not you're a U.S. citizen. Citizenship has to be the thing that holds us together as a country. We're all Americans. And this continuation of identity what's your color, who's held to a different legal standard, period.
Cover letter. I really.
Brian Scott Casey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you
for having me. This is more people in one place than I've seen since the last Charlie Kirk event I was at, so it's hilarious. So I noticed everyone's been talking about Epstein tonight, and I want to kind of differ from the crowd a little bit in saying that I watched Ben Shapiro yesterday, and no, before you boo me, I thought he made a really solid point. He's like, it happened a long time ago. Who cares? And by the way, we should trust the government and whatever the bureaucrats tell us. And by the way, it's wrong to ask a lot of unauthorized questions. So I just want to go on the record to say that I think that's absurd. And it's exactly the kind of thinking that I personally voted against in the last election. In the last election, I spent a lot of the month of October campaigning with and for the president. But I did vote this time. And I don't like to vote because I don't believe in any of them. And this time I really felt like I know Trump well. I love Trump personally.